The more the words, the less the meaning. Simplifying your speech may not be something you've considered before, but it's worth thinking about if you want your words to have more meaning and affect more people in a positive way. So here are 9 tips for doing just that. The very first thing I'll say is to deal with your heart first. If you have any type of bitterness or unforgiveness in your heart, that's going to manifest in your words, regardless of if you're talking about the topic that you're bitter about. Learn how to get comfortable with the discomfort of the things that you're feeling in your heart, face them, and fix them, whether that's meditating or praying or going to counseling and therapy. Deal with those first, and it is going to manifest well in your speech. Next, be honest. Especially if you are a people pleaser, this one may be difficult. But even if you are saying words that you think people want to hear, eventually, by your actions and by your other words, the truth is going to come out. So you might as well just be honest to begin with. Have tact. This doesn't mean that you have to tell your spouse every time they're doing something that absolutely drives you crazy. And you don't have to tell somebody they look terrible in an outfit. You can be productive with your honesty, but just be honest when somebody asks rather than beating around the bush or telling somebody what you think they want to hear. Learn to say no and stop at that. If somebody asks you to do something that you know is beyond your limits, whether you don't have the time or the emotional energy, or it's simply something that you just know you absolutely don't want to do, just say no. You can say, I can't, next to that, but don't feel like you need to defend yourself or justify your reason, because again, that just gets back to people pleasing, and it also causes you to feel insecure about your decision that you've made. This is a big one. Don't force words. I know you've been in a conversation or in a situation where you're trying to meet new people or just keep up a conversation with someone you don't know very well, and it's super forced. That is really awkward, but again, just start to feel comfortable with that discomfort and don't feel like you have to force anything. Be polite if you want, but as soon as we start digging and kind of frantically looking for things to say, it kind of adds chaos in the conversation. And it's okay if every conversation doesn't hit the ball out of the park and you made a connection with someone. Just learn to be uncomfortable in silence, and that will also help boost your confidence. Embrace saying the words, I don't know, and accept that you don't know everything. I find that in conversations about deep, convicting topics, people just don't like to say, I don't know, whether it's religion or politics or ex-boyfriends, whatever. Any topic that really strikes a nerve, it's okay to admit that you don't know everything, even if it makes you uncomfortable. I feel like we keep coming back to confidence when it comes to these words. So often we speak out of a lack of confidence. It's as if we're trying to compensate for something that we don't have. Admitting that we don't know something is actually really courageous and will help you be more confident. People will look up to you more, they will respect you more, and they'll know that you're being, again, honest with yourself and with them, and you're not going to end up making a fool of yourself by saying something that really doesn't have a lot of fact to it. This next one is really hard to do, ironically, but when somebody asks you a question, pause before you answer. Whether it's 2 seconds or 5 seconds, just don't say anything and really collect the full thought before you start answering. Not only will you deal with that silence, which is going to help you build your confidence, but you're going to speak more clearly and in more complete sentences and more complete thoughts than you maybe would have if you just spouted out the first thing that came to mind as soon as they asked you the question. And that leads me to my next important point. Always finish your sentences. I do this all the time where I start a sentence and then I think of something else because I got distracted by another thought, and I'll jump onto that sentence and maybe give you 5 or 6 words, and then I think of something else and I jump onto that sentence and then I'll give you 5 or 6 more words. And basically it's me trying to add disclaimers to everything I'm about to say, but then I'm just going all over the place. I never make a full circle with my thoughts, and it's chaos. If you take a breath and a pause before answering, that's going to help you, but this is also something that you'll just have to do through trial and error, because if you're in the habit of doing it, it's a big and difficult habit to break, but it can be done if you slow down and just remember to finish one thought before you move on to the next one. Stop apologizing for everything. When we apologize for every answer that comes out of our mouth, especially if we think that there's any chance that it could be the least bit offensive, oh my gosh, it just makes us look so insecure. And it probably is because we are insecure about the words that we're saying. If you have legitimately hurt somebody and you didn't intend to, that wasn't what you were trying to convey, by all means apologize. Apologizing is appropriate in the right setting. But when you're apologizing for who you are and what you believe, you either are over speaking and saying things that you absolutely need to keep to yourself because it's not appropriate at the time, or you just aren't confident enough in what you're saying. What you believe a lot of the time and what you feel is true. You may need to learn how to present it in a different light, but you don't have to apologize for who you are as a person or the decisions that you make. And this last one is the biggest and most effective way to simplify your speech, and that's simply by speaking less. The more the words, the less the meaning. It's one of my favorite sayings. Silence is a fabulous teacher. It not only teaches us wisdom, but it teaches us compassion, especially when we're heated and emotionally invested into a conversation or a topic, and we want to just spout off these things that we're feeling. If you're able to keep your mouth shut and just listen to what everybody else is saying, you'll learn that there's actually a lot of foolishness and a lot of folly that gets spouted out when you're just so emotionally charged. And you can start to feel compassion for the subject or the topic or the people group that's being discussed, rather than just sitting in judgment and thinking that you know everything. This is difficult to do, I understand, especially just speaking less. I wanted this video to be 3 minutes long, and let's see, I'm already at like 12 minutes. The more we practice it, the better we will get at speaking less, being more intentional about our words, and only speaking things that are valuable and helpful, rather than just demonstrative or our blatant opinion that may hurt a lot of feelings, or just pointless junk that adds to the cacophony all around us and really doesn't contribute at all to society in general. So those are just some thoughts that have been going around in my head the last few weeks. You haven't heard as much from me on this channel or online because I've really been trying to embrace this silence thing lately. So I don't necessarily know if you'll be getting a weekly video from me for a while, just because I'm not going to contribute to the conversation online unless it's something I truly believe is going to benefit you and me. Thank you for understanding, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.